do right here is go back. Way back. Back into time.
We can rebuild him. We have the technology.
Celebrating 20 years of New England Championship Wrestling. This is the ReGeneration Podcast.
And now, here are your hosts, Sheldon Goldberg, Joe Matarazzo, and Kevin Castro.
All right, welcome everyone to the ReGeneration Podcast. Sheldon Goldberg here along with Joe Matarazzo and Kevin Castro. It is 2021. Happy New Year, everyone. It's good to have you with us. Good to have Joe Matarazzo with us. Hey, Joe.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank God. Here we are, 2021.
Yeah. And Kevin Castro.
Happy New Year, everybody. Off to a great start? Question mark?
Yeah, the country's still standing, even though...
I'll take the question mark.
Yeah. In spite of recent events and so forth.
Yeah.
So what I thought we'd do on this premiere episode of 2021 is people tend around New Year's to do resolutions. I personally don't like resolutions because, they're so easy to break. Most resolutions don't take place. So what we're going to do on this show, for part of it anyway, is we're going to talk about our New Year's predictions. We're going to talk about the major companies in wrestling. We're going to talk about NECW. And we're going to give our predictions for the coming year. What we think might happen in our proverbial crystal balls. And see what we think the future is going to hold for 2021. And we've got a bonus match we're going to get into later. And that match is for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. It is Colt Cabana. Colt Boom Boom Cabana, the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion at the time, taking on Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. This was the second match in the legendary 7 Levels of Hate series. The NECW sponsored 2 of those matches. This was the first of the 2. It took place on June 6th of 2012. We're going to look at that and discuss that a little bit later on in the broadcast. And maybe discuss a few other things, too, with some recent passings. We're sad to report in the world of professional wrestling. Why don't we get those out of the way first? Of course, a week or so ago, the news came out that Brody Lee, a.k.a. John Huber, AEW, passed away very suddenly of lung issues. And I thought AEW did a stellar tribute to Brody Lee. If you follow social media and been following all this, you heard how beloved Brody Lee was by people in the business and so forth, in all the companies that he'd worked for. The outpouring of love for Brody Lee and his family was just incredible. I thought AEW did a very first-class job with their tribute to him and trying to do some things for his family. I was very moved by that. I thought that was great. I personally did not know him. However, Brody's wife, Amanda, actually wrestled for World Women's Wrestling. So she was a wrestler at one point, and she did work for us. Very sweet girl. She wrestled under the name of Cindy, I believe, and had a few matches, not a lot. I mean, she worked for us, over a period of maybe 4 or 5 months, whatever. But she was a very nice girl, and very sad for her family. We send our condolences, of course. Guys, what were your thoughts on that tribute that AEW did for Brody Lee?
I thought it was just a class act. Absolute, from beginning to end. I mean, the entire show, Tony Khan is just, talk about a guy who's changing the perception of what a wrestling business is or has been in the past on a big level, on such a big level. To a guy that has all that money and stardom around him, to selfishly put that aside, change everything that he was doing for the sake of a family and especially the kids. Brody Jr., he was the star of the show.
Yeah.
And it'll never make up for losing his dad. But man, he found out that he has probably a bigger family he ever knew he ever would. Just the outpouring of love and affection. I couldn't hold it together the whole show. I had to pause it at some points. I couldn't having kids, it's just one of those things that just gets to you. Yeah. Even if you don't have kids, if it didn't move you and it didn't get to you, you don't have a heart. That was an unbelievable. I had the privilege of working with him way back when he first started. He came up here with a whole bunch of guys from the New York and New Jersey area, and I refereed a bunch of his matches while he was up here. The first couple of years he was in the business, and I didn't get to know him a lot, but he was a lot of fun to work with in the ring. Being so big, he did a lot of the big man stuff, but boy, could he move. Even back then, as a big man, and just an all-around nice guy. I don't think I could think of any incident that ever happened with him that wasn't pleasant. So a big loss, terrible, terrible loss. It just makes you appreciate what you have. And it's sad because for the last, at least a year before he came to AEW, he was on the shelf and just kind of sitting at home. And you can look at that, like we were talking before we started talking tonight, recording, silver linings on things. He had an entire year to sit down with his family and be with them and be with those kids and really connect, where he may not have had that. And I guess if anything good comes out of it, he was such a family man. Most guys can't do that till it's either too late, the kids are too big, they're on the road all that time. He was blessed with an awful lot of time with them without losing money. He was getting paid to sit at home. And then he still was able to prove he was a main event star by going to AEW and doing what he was able to do. And his last match was that dog collar match with Cody. And I mean, there've been dog collar matches, and bringing in Greg Valentine for that made that a little more special. And the fact that that's his last legacy of a match, it was a phenomenal dog collar match. I think they're going to rate anyone that comes out in the future is going to be, that's the measuring stick now. I think that's where we're at right now. So big loss, much love to the family.
Kevin, did you know Brody Lee at all?
I had done a few shows with him. Again, as Joe was saying, when he first started, he was traveling with the team as the Olsen twins, which was kind of funny to see them walking into the building because he was so much larger than the other two. I never really got to know him that well. It was just sort of in passing. The locker room was kind of cliquey, so the New York guys were, in their spot.
Right.
I had the people that I was friendly with. It was like another group. So seeing the success that he had, was very good to see because, I mean, he worked his ass off. With the tribute show, you could feel the love and respect that every single person in that building had for him. And it wasn't one of those things where, this is my job, I have to go out there and perform. This was, they were going out there with a purpose, to give tribute to their friend. And as Joe was saying, the way Tony Khan is taking care of that family, and all the other wrestlers as well, like just seeing their interaction with his son, it's heartwarming, to see that, to them it's not just a job, it's not just a business, it's family. And when you look at some of the other things that are going on in the business right now, you have on the other side of the spectrum a company that's making millions and billions of dollars and firing people in the middle of a pandemic. And then there's somebody else that he passed away and they give his 8-year-old son a contract when he's old enough to take that financial burden as well. Right. So it's just amazing. It's good to see the good of the business because you hear so much about the negativity and the quote unquote dark side of the ring, which is a great show. But still, you can only take so much before the doom and gloom starts to weigh down on you, and you need that light. And you could definitely see that in this tribute. Yeah,
very true. Very true. Definitely. I certainly teared up a number of times watching that show.
Yeah.
And I just thought to myself, what a great example of the positive in pro wrestling. You don't see that often enough. So hats off to
They let
AEW.
they let his son book the show,
Yeah.
Right.
and it was
Exactly.
it's better than some of the other stuff that's on TV.
Made
Better
more
than Monday
sense, too.
nights.
What does that say? Right.
Made a lot more sense.
Yeah. Also, we lost Danny Hodge recently, the legendary Danny Hodge, former NWA World Junior Heavyweight Champion, the man who the Amateur Wrestling Hodge Trophy is named after. The Hodge Trophy in amateur wrestling is the equivalent of the Heisman Trophy in football. It's the highest honor that an amateur wrestler in the collegiate ranks can get. Danny Hodge was just a wonderful human being. Just a terrific man, freakishly strong. The man had double tendons and could break pairs of pliers with his bare hands, crush an apple. Try crushing an apple in your bare hands. Ain't easy to do, folks. The only other person I've ever seen do it is Nikolai Volkov, and it was funny. Jim Cornette once told me that they used to gimmick the apples for Nikolai Volkov, and how you did it was they would boil the apple first. So the inside would get mushy, but it would retain its shape. So, but with Danny Hodge, never had to do that. That was legit. Him crushing those apples and turn them into applesauce right in front of your eyes. I used to break pairs of pliers, go into a hardware store, break every pair of pliers with his bare hands in the place. Would break doorknobs off of doors.
Amazing.
Yeah. Danny Hodge was the most famous resident of Perry, Oklahoma. Hodge broke into pro wrestling after his stellar amateur career. He was only taken down once in his entire amateur career, and it was basically when he was going to compete for the gold medal in the Olympics. He basically went on his back and essentially pinned himself. And the judge, who was partial to the foreign competitor that he was competing against, counted it as a fall, but really the only time he was ever pinned was he pinned himself. So, I mean, he had an extraordinary career as an amateur. Became a Golden Gloves boxer, had numerous knockouts, giving, not receiving, and just connected with Leroy McGurk after his boxing career. And McGurk promoted Oklahoma, that Mid-South area, and Danny Hodge being the local hero, it was just a natural for him to get into pro wrestling. And of course, he had all the tools and became a stellar professional. Was multiple-time world junior heavyweight champion. Wrestled a lot mostly in the Midwest and the Southeast. Never really up in this part of the country, unfortunately. But Danny Hodge was a great man. As I was starting to say before, he was the most famous resident of Perry, Oklahoma. And one of the things that he used to do when I would see him at the Fabulous Moolah's conventions that she used to have, the Ladies International Wrestling Association and the Cauliflower Alley Club, Danny used to go to those quite a bit. And I first met him at one of Moolah's conventions. They had the phone book for Perry, Oklahoma, which is like the size of about a Reader's Digest, and it had Danny's picture on the front cover, because he's the most famous resident of Perry, Oklahoma. So he would have these phone books and would sign them to people, and I have one here somewhere, as well as a cookbook that he wrote and a bunch of other stuff. We corresponded quite a bit. In fact, one of Danny Hodge's great feuds in his pro wrestling career was against my friend, the late Hiro Matsuda, and in fact, I was the one that called him to tell him when Hiro had passed away, and the two of us cried on the phone together. So just a warm and wonderful man, and a great loss. A real icon, not just in pro wrestling, but in American professional sports. Danny Hodge was the first wrestler ever to be featured on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
That's right.
Another one of his accolades. He was in his 80s, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, he was.
So he had a good life. And just a wonderful human being. So he'll very much be missed. And just yesterday, I heard that Bobby Davis passed away. Bobby Davis was the manager of many great heels in the late 50s, early 60s, most notably with the Nature Boy Buddy Rogers. Bobby Davis was the blueprint for the managers that came after him, the Freddie Blassies and the Lou Albanos and the Grand Wizards and Bobby Heenan, and so on and so forth. Bobby Davis was the original loudmouth manager. If you go back on YouTube and look up Bobby Davis and see him managing Buddy Rogers, he was a tremendous promo, just the prototype for wrestling managers. When Rogers took time off of wrestling after he lost to Bruno Sammartino because of a heart issue, Davis kind of disappeared from pro wrestling. And he was very good friends with a guy from Columbus, Ohio, where he was originally from, by the name of Dave Thomas. Dave Thomas, of course, was the founder of Wendy's. So Bobby Davis got into the food business and got the franchise rights for all of Central California for Wendy's, and became a multimillionaire on that, and also owned a number of Wendy's franchises with Merle Haggard. Yeah. So Bobby Davis, interesting individual, and another great loss for pro wrestling. He hadn't been seen much in recent years. He was in his 80s, but I was not fortunate enough to have any interactions with Bobby Davis, but admired him very much as a figure in the wrestling business, so he'll be missed. Those were some of the losses that we have suffered over these last several weeks. So let's get into our New Year's predictions. And I was thinking earlier about how we should do this, and I think what makes the most sense is let's talk about it by companies, and then we can branch off into individual things. Let's start with WWE. What do you guys see in the future of 2021 for World Wrestling Entertainment? It's been a tough year for them.
It's been a tough few years for them.
Right. But this year in particular, due to the pandemic. It's been a tough year for all of pro wrestling due to the pandemic.
See, I still think that they missed the opportunity. I think that they could have capitalized on the pandemic because everything was shut down. There was no sports on TV. They were still performing. They were still going live at times. I just think that if they presented themselves in a different way, they could have created a whole new audience for that product. But instead, they continually do the same thing over and over and over again, and it's unwatchable now.
It's definitely getting to that point. Yeah. At least Monday nights. That's the one. NXT is still holding strong, but you got to look at who's working the strings on NXT. It's a little bit of a different format. I think honestly, the format of the show. If you go back and you watch a show from the Attitude Era, and I'm only going back that far as the Attitude Era,
right?
You look at how the format of the show is done, how it's broken up, how the segments are, and it's an exciting show to watch. Just go back, take it whatever the first Monday in January is. Go back and look at that one. You know what I mean? Just pick one, and you look at how it is. You know what's going to happen every time it comes on. We're gonna have a promo in the beginning of the show. That's gonna lead into something. That's gonna lead into something. That's gonna be a match, and the match is then we're gonna go to break. And then no matter what's gonna happen, we lost all this time that you could have had a match going on. There's no cliffhangers or very little. They had a pretty good one started with Randy Orton and Alexa, and then they just threw it away at this Legends thing for no reason. You know, there's so much they could have done with that angle.
See, that's an interesting point too. I don't mean to cut you off, but
please.
With the Legends, all right. So 2 weeks prior to the Legends show, the ratings were the absolute worst that they've ever been. So they go to what they always do, which is let's bring back all the old names. Yet they refuse to create new names. So what's going to happen when there's no more Legends?
Right.
How are they gonna? And to take it back even further, I remember when I was growing up, they had primetime wrestling on Monday nights, and then I remember every Monday I would be watching primetime. Then they changed the format from the Gorilla Monsoon, Bobby Heenan sitting at the desk, to Vince McMahon, Bobby Heenan with a live audience. To the point where I remember my parents saying, if you do good on your report card, we will bring you to that show. And I did good, and they never brought me. and I'm still bitter about it. But then they
I'll bring you to a show.
which probably explains my grades every year after that. But anyways, so then they change the format again. They bring Monday Night Raw, right? So okay, so now they're putting more wrestling on. Fast forward another couple of years, WCW comes out. They're going head to head. They changed the format again. Now they're live. I never missed a Monday, and if I did, I was devastated that I missed it. I didn't watch Nitro because I was a loyal WWF fan. Now it's just gotten like it's sad because it's like my childhood. It's like a best friend that you can't talk to anymore. Just because you see that they're making poor choices. It's just weird because it went from I don't even want to say a habit, but it was a habit. Monday night, this is what's on.
Yeah.
And now it's just not caring enough to even put the television on.
Well, a lot of this has to do with what you said about them not making new stars. Mm-hmm. They've lost their way. They've lost the plot, as Jim Cornette loves to say. And it's true. They forgot what makes stars in pro wrestling.
I don't think it's that at all, honestly. I think it's they don't want to. It's not that they forgot. They don't want anyone to be bigger than the company. No one can say no to them right now. You got John Cena saying to them just a few years ago, "I'm not going to Saudi. I don't want to be there." Mm-hmm. You had The Rock saying, "I'm out of here. I'm going to Hollywood. I'm done with my contract. I'm not doing it." Mm-hmm. When they become bigger than Vince, it's like the circus. You go to see the circus because you're there to see the circus. And then you got a few attractions. And that's when you bring in your Lesners, you bring in your legends, you do that. But people don't go to... Remember, you used to go to the Garden because Bruno was going to be there. Or because Hogan was going to be there. That was the draw. Now, it's WWE's the draw. You go to WWE. You don't go to see any one particular star.
You are correct. They don't even plug the individual matches.
Nope, they don't. There's no need to.
It's like going to see the Ice Capades or the Harlem Globetrotters or whatever.
Yep, Disney on Ice.
Yeah.
That's it. It might as well be just that.
But if that's the case, then why aren't people watching? Why are the ratings so bad?
Because pro wrestling is star-driven.
Millions of people.
Yeah.
It's star-driven. You can't help but be star-driven. And on the one hand, they don't want any one individual to be bigger than the company. On the other hand, that's what makes the company big. You have people that people want to see.
So to put that into perspective, Dave Thomas, who we were just speaking about, the founder of Wendy's with his square hamburgers,
right?
And that made them different, right? That made them different from everybody else, right? So they become known for their burgers, and now people know their burgers more than they know Dave Thomas's name. So wouldn't it be foolish for him to be like, "Well, I don't want this to be. I'm going to stop serving burgers," when that's what brings people to your establishment,
right?
People are paying money to see larger-than-life characters.
Coca-Cola did it. Mm-hmm. Coca-Cola changed the formula. That was the biggest gaffe they ever had. And it wasn't until they went to Classic Coke that they got all their people to come back to them. Because people were like, we don't want to deal with this. It's not what we wanted. Right. And because somebody had the bright idea that they needed to change. Well, you need to change when it's time to change. WWE has not changed in a while. And the last big star that they had was Cena.
But even the way they're booking their baby faces as heels, and they don't realize it. You're getting more sympathy for the heels, like Rey Mysterio and his family. Basically ganging up on Baron Corbin as faces.
Right.
Why? It wasn't provoked. It's almost as if there's a bunch of people that are like, oh, well, this would be interesting if they did that. But you're going against the character. You're going against what makes the good guy the good guy. Why are you going to want to cheer them?
And the sad part about it is this is the company that basically wrote the book on how to do this the right way. And they're just not doing it anymore.
One of the other things to look at the rise of WCW. They came in, they were something new, they had a great angle that got the world watching them, and then they hired everybody. They had so many people under contract to the point where they had almost everybody under contract. And then they had too much. They were just paying people to sit at home. Their shows kept being repetitive. It was the same thing over and over and over again. The NWO would just beat down whatever the faces were.
All 75 members.
Right. They just kept doing that one trick pony. They would screw up. They would have a good angle going, such as, building up Sting for a year to fight Hogan, and then they botch the finish or the blow off of the match.
Yep.
They went from 2 hours to 3 hours. Their stories got worse, the ratings got worse, and what was the end result?
They went out of
83
business.
weeks later, they went out of business.
They were writing the shows as the shows were going live.
That sounds familiar, doesn't it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if history repeats itself, they try to scoop up.
Always does.
They try to scoop up all the talent. They're paying people to stay home. They keep doing the same, not even the same story. They have the same matches week after week after week.
Yep.
So,
honestly, thank God Seth Rollins went and had a baby, because I was getting sick and tired of watching him.
Yeah.
And Seth's an incredible worker, but man, I was just getting sick and tired of seeing him.
Too. They have the best talent, some of the best talent in the world, and they're not allowed to perform the way that they should be performing.
Yep.
Right.
And what's funny is I go back to Vince McMahon and Beyond the Ring, where he basically says, we're not in the wrestling business, we're here to make movies.
Right.
For someone who's made an empire on professional wrestling, he hates professional wrestling. Makes no sense. And now I'll step off my soapbox.
Well, this has been going on for decades. It's now gotten to the point where they've gotten so far away from pro wrestling that it's unrecognizable. It's not even sports entertainment.
No.
They've gone so far into the entertainment portion of it that it's been completely warped out of shape. These silly angles and the silly stuff that they do that makes no sense. That what's the matter with pro wrestling? There's nothing wrong with it. Go back to it. I mean,
the old psychology, the old stories, they still work today.
They sure do.
Oh, yeah. Yes, they do. Yep. You could rehash some of that stuff from 30 years ago, and the kids now would eat it up with a nice new spin on it.
Now, WWE is under a lot of pressure from USA and to
Fox.
do something about the ratings, and Fox to do something about the ratings, because the ratings are, quite frankly, in the toilet. They're doing a great big swirly around the drain. And my prediction for this year is they're going to have to do something drastic eventually. I think this is the year that maybe this gets to the point where they've got to swing the pendulum back in the other direction out of pure necessity. Because what they're doing now just plain doesn't work. Unfortunately, the people that they have in charge of the product, these Hollywood writers and Kevin Dunn and whatnot, they're not wrestling people.
No.
They all think they're friggin' Aaron Spelling. I mean, they're not. Again, I think that at a certain point, the pendulum has to swing back in the other direction. And maybe, let's hope that they're getting to that point so that they could get this deal back on track.
So then what direction do you think? Go back towards the more adult content? Because I don't think that'll fly now. I don't think society will accept that.
I think they're going to book it more like pro wrestling.
I think that's what Fox wants.
Yeah.
Fox wants that.
They do.
I think Fox would definitely be looking for more adult content at that time.
I think Fox wants more sports oriented, like have actual matches.
They did in the beginning. They really did in the beginning. But I think...
yeah, but you got to remember that those network executives are not wrestling people either.
Right.
They're not going to say, "Hey, wait a minute, let's get back to some real booking here," and not. They don't know. They
want a crossover.
Yeah.
Right. They want to take a guy and they want to be able to put him in the booth over on Monday on football on Fox, whatever night
Right.
that they're going to Sunday Night Football. They want that guy, the champ, to sit up there. They want Brock Lesnar sitting there with the title belt, who's got the credentials of being a pure athlete, somebody that is just dominating, because that's the image that these people have. That's why he destroyed Kofi in 9 seconds on the inaugural. And of course, who'd they bring in for the inaugural? The Rock. They don't have the star power to be able to pop a rating right now unless you do something drastic. And unfortunately, they're not bringing guys in to build anybody. This is the first time I saw Hogan actually standing next to Drew McIntyre and put him over. He didn't just sit there and take over the spotlight. He threw the spotlight right on Drew. I was like, okay, that's a start.
There was an interview with Hogan.
There were a few times that happened. Other than that, they were... Yep.
There was an interview with Hogan where he's saying some of the guys were kind of cold to him in the back. That they thought, well, what's he doing here? He's coming to take our spot. And Hogan was saying, look, guys, I can't do this anymore. I'm busted up. I've had a bunch of back surgeries. I'm an old man. I can't, this is your show now.
But you have
I'll
to
give you the
wonder,
rub,
too,
but-
if some of those guys are giving him the cold shoulder because of some of his past comments or activities.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure that's
it
but
might.
you also think about it this way: if you got a guy who look at, they got a 3-hour show, and you can't give a guy like Mustafa Ali 5 minutes, but you give Hogan a 10 minutes between the beginning and the. I'm looking at him, and yes, he did a little deal with him on the after show, but he makes a good point. And if they ran with that, because that's a story in and of itself,
Right.
You could do something with that. And now you're making somebody. You know what I mean? Because every second you give a guy like Hogan or Sarge or any of the guys at Tatanka is seconds that you're taking away from guys that are on there trying to do their job. And it's bad booking.
Well,
it's just horrible.
If
you
look at
the whole Legends thing is great in moderation. Have one guy, have two guys, have three guys, not 17 of them. I mean, it just what you're doing is you're making your current roster obsolete.
Yeah. You're making them forget about them and remembering what it was like when all these guys were around. And that's all. You pop a nostalgia rating for a night.
Right.
That's it.
And next week it goes back to the same old whatever.
And then you look at the wrestlers trying to make their own programs with celebrities on Twitter, which makes no sense. It's almost like they're trying to force a match at WrestleMania. Last year, Seth Rollins was going after CM Punk, trying to bait him into a match, which, of course, wasn't going to happen. This year, you have... I can't think of her name. The Southern Belle. Thank you. Going after Cardi B, of all people. Who would pay money to see that?
Not me.
Nope. No, I don't even want to see her sing. So, that's me though.
Yeah.
It seems desperate on the talent's part, and if I have to make a prediction, I'm going to say that it's going to remain the same for another year. It's going to be the same thing, the same status quo. They'll have good matches because the talent they have is good, but as far as ratings or storytelling goes, it's just going to be the exact same thing. We'll see the same matches that you're seeing this coming Monday. You'll probably see the exact same ones in June, and then you'll see the exact same thing pop back up around November.
And again, I believe that we're going to reach a tipping point with them pretty soon, where it's going to get desperate, and they're going to have to be forced to make changes.
I think that's going to happen by June. I say by the middle of the year, their back's going to be up against the wall, and it's going to be, fight or flight at that point. Either you pick it up and do the right thing, and they're going to make some major change. It's going to be a major shakeup. I say May, June is what I'm looking at, because it's not going to get any better the way it's going right now.
Right.
And from what I understand, they just brought a new writer in, just within the last 2 weeks.
Right.
And so far, if some of the stuff that I've seen in the last 2 weeks is him, he should be packing his bags right now and going back out, because that kid ain't going to make it. So,
I think they need to get away from writers and go back to a booker.
Yep.
Yeah, call Dutch Mantel, will you?
Have a booker for SmackDown and have a booker for NXT.
Yep.
You'll have 3 different shows. It'll go back to the old school mentality of things, and I think that you would have much more success than
Vince needs a vacation. put it in the hands of somebody else for a little while. Go take a little vacation. You know, put your rare steak and black coffee down. Put the weights down for a little bit. Just go relax.
How long before Tony Khan has to buy airtime, advertising time for Raw to get people to watch it?
Oh, boy. Well, that's a good segue. We'll move over to AEW, and let's talk about what we see for 2021 in AEW. I think they are going to have a great year. I think this whole Kenny Omega Impact Wrestling thing is just the tip of the iceberg. I see them taking chances and doing different things. There's a lot about AEW that needs improvement. I think the booking leaves a lot to be desired. There's a lot of very indie-rific stuff that happens on that show. But to me, it's the more interesting, between it and WWE, it's the more interesting show. You've got a lot of talent over there that has great potential. I think we've seen with Tony Khan that his heart is in the right place. You got to remember, he's not a dyed-in-the-wool wrestling guy. You know, he's feeling his way along here, and he's being aided by talent who are not experienced as executives. So, I mean, give him an opportunity to figure it all out. I think they're well on their way to doing that. I think eventually they're going to have to bring some more experienced hands into the booking end of it, but they're doing all the right things right now. They've got
the good part is he's a fan of wrestling, Tony Khan.
Right.
And that's going to help him along because he wants it done right.
And he's got great resources with him right now. I mean, who better than Jim Ross?
No kidding.
You know, he's got Arn, he's got Tully, he's got, you know, he's got Jake, he's got guys who have, you know, been there, done that, who he can call on for advice. You know, I see them having a very strong year, especially if they're given more time on either TNT or TBS. I think they're going to have a very strong year. Again, I think there's booking issues that need to be addressed there, continuity issues that need to be addressed, but I think overall they're in really good shape at this point, and I see that continuing into the new year.
I see more partnerships this year with them too. Whether it's now I kind of predicted, and it seems to be developing a little bit here with this whole Bullet Club reunion. But I'm seeing now. I could see Tony Khan working a deal with New Japan because they're the ones that own the rights to the Bullet Club. Of course, Bullet Club merchandise, Bullet Club everything has fallen off down to the wayside because they've lost their exposure over here in the United States. I don't think it would take much for Tony to convince them to use the Bullet Club and get a piece of the merchandise here in the United States. And now you're working a deal between 3 different promotions with Bullet Club members, and you restart the Bullet Club up. I could easily see that happening. Because let's face it, you see more Bullet Club shirts in the audience, and like you were saying just not that long ago, Kevin, NWO was the only other thing you ever saw that much of. So now you've got a brand new faction that's regrouped, and you can bring that everywhere, and these guys can be shared talent all over the place. There's plenty of money to be made, and you're not going to be able to take on Vince by yourself. But if you can come at him from 3 or 4 different ways and use the talent that you have in conjunction with each other, and the egos don't get ahead of you, I see a very profitable year for AEW, and I see a second show coming too.
See, what I like is the fact that I don't see AEW going after Vince. You know,
you don't have to, right?
I see it more so they know that he exists. They're just going to put out the product that they think is good, and they don't care what they're doing on the other side. They're just going to continue to do what they're doing. Where on the flip side of it, WWE seems more reactive to trying to, keep talent from going there or counter programming whenever they have something going on. Like you were saying, as far as building up the Bullet Club, I think it's going to go even deeper than that because they've already established that the crossover with Impact We've seen now the Good Brothers showing up, forming that, can we say non-denominational?
Well, I like that.
Club?
That's good. Sure.
All right.
Yeah.
So if you look at New Japan, with Kota Ibushi just won both titles, who has a history with Kenny Omega. So that right there, the Golden Lovers against each other, dream match.
Dream match for the fans, sure.
So you have potential New Japan. We talked about it before, that they already have the working relationship with Impact. They have the working relationship with NWA. They have a working relationship in Mexico. So I honestly think that we're going to see this giant crossover between all these different promotions, and each promotion getting stronger because of it.
Absolutely. Who just quit? New Japan. And just left the Bullet Club.
Mm-hmm.
It was Jay White. Jay White's out there right now. He just left New Japan. He said he's done. I don't think we're going to see him overseas too much longer. I think he's coming. And he'll be gunning for Omega. And I mean, these, again, dream matches.
And I think this is great, too, because it's making wrestling stronger. For so long, there was only one spot where people could go, and now there's so much talent out there that has the opportunity to show up and do this for a living and make a living at it. And it's not just a matter of, Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Rock. Now that you have, Moxley's making a different name for himself. You have, Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy is going to be a household name. Something as crazy as that.
His music hits. Oh my God, the new music.
Your Eddie Edwards, the Good Brothers, all these different people that now have even more potential to become bigger stars, and that's not even going to the people that we don't know about, that haven't been signed.
Right.
That are just coming up if and when the indies ever come back.
What about Ring of Honor? Anybody following that?
Ring of Honor need to get themselves an established time to be on every single week. They have the money to do it. Why they haven't pulled the trigger on that in the last 5 years is beyond me. But you can't find them anywhere on a regular basis. That's what's hurting them. I think that's what's holding them back, and it's unfortunate. They have the money and the resources to do it.
Right. It's been that situation for years. Let me explain to you a little bit about Ring of Honor from what I know. And that is, the way Ring of Honor works is every Sinclair television station contributes a certain amount of money towards Ring of Honor, and that's the Ring of Honor budget. And that's it. They very much lowball the numbers in terms of what kind of financial support they're giving to the wrestling promotion. It's a mistake. But, they don't have a national network. Sinclair doesn't own a Spike TV or a USA or a TNT or a TBS. They don't own a broadcast or a cable property like that to use Ring of Honor as a showcase piece. So, it's great programming for their individual stations, and they've got a ton of them. But you're right. It's hard to find on a national basis. And
on a regular basis,
right? It's hard to find on a regular basis anywhere, and that's why they don't draw more than 500 or 600 or 700 people anywhere. And until their philosophy of how to budget that company changes, that's what it's going to be. I mean, they'll be around. I mean, they're not going to lose money. They're going to be around, but they're not going to be the kind of machine that they could be if the right resources were put behind them. And it's an old story.
Promotion.
Right.
They'll be a good indie promotion,
right.
But they're going to be a stepping stone. Is all they're going to end up being at that point, which is really all they are right now.
Right.
It's unfortunate because it's a great company.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I'm not a great Ring of Honor fan. I think
they've been around a long time.
They have been around a long time.
You got to give it to them on that. Yep.
Yeah. And they've a lot of great stars have come through their ranks. I absolutely give them that. I'm not a big fan of that connect the spot style of pro wrestling, but let's give them credit where it's due. They've produced great talent and great content over the years. They're not going to go anywhere. Can they go where they have the potential to go is really up to whether the company really wants to put the money behind it and make that kind of an investment. And that's been the same story with Ring of Honor for many years. It'll be interesting to see if any additional moves are made and so forth. I saw where Marty Scurll just came off contract there, so you don't know where he's going to show up. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Ring of Honor. They've brought back the Pure title and done this Pure tournament. Former NECW champion John Walters was in that. He came out of retirement.
Yep.
So they're trying to do some interesting things, and I hope it works out for them. Like I say, they're not going to go anywhere. They're going to be around, which is a good thing. So let's hope that the powers that be at Sinclair decide that they're going to open up the purse strings a little bit and do some interesting things with Ring of Honor.
I think MLW is going to surpass them. I think. As far as having exposure, having a certain place or time. I mean, right now they're on Tuesday nights 7 to 8 on YouTube, I believe.
Right. They've made a lot of interesting deals. They've got to deal with Pluto TV.
Yes.
Catch them on that.
Court Bauer's pretty smart. He's a slick guy.
Yeah, Court Bauer. I've known Court Bauer for a long time. Very, very smart guy. Some of the talent underneath leaves a little bit to be desired, but they do have some great talent, and Court Bauer's a smart guy. He's a good booker, so
yeah.
There's interesting stuff going on around there. And
but you know how it works. Most of the time, you can end up getting, when you have the exposure and people can know where to find you. The talent will come find you. They'll be looking to come work for you if you can get that exposure out there. Mm-hmm. So I give it up to Court. I think he's doing a great job. Look, he signed the Von Erich boys. I've been a Von Erich fan since day one.
Right.
And to see those boys out there on a full scale in the United States, to me, that's huge. To bring them in from Hawaii and have them wrestling in here and holding the titles and and then Jacob Fatu, what a talent he is.
Right.
That kid is really good. I mean, he's had some issues, but boy, he's really putting them behind him. And I'm happy for what they're doing over there. They just got the guy from Lucha Underground. I can't think of his name now, but another grab. Some good little moves in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
Nice job.
Right.
Very nice.
Impact. They're going to have a big year, thanks to AEW.
I think so. Coattailing a little bit, but I think they're going to be towed along a little.
Well,
they got some changes.
There's nothing wrong with coattailing if it takes you to a better place.
They got some changes to make. They got to what they were able to do during the pandemic was okay. Mm-hmm. It got them by a lot of the silly stuff and the ha-ha stuff. But I think now they have a goal. I think they can see what's going on, and I think they're going to be moving that way, more wrestling oriented. I think they're going to be showing that they're not just that ha-ha small promotion. Right. This is not TNA. Mm-hmm. This is Impact Wrestling, and I think it's going to change for the better. I think we're going to see some good stuff out of Impact. I think you're going to see a lot of people sign to Impact as opposed to AEW for this battle between the two. If Tony Khan doesn't buy Impact by then.
Yeah, I think Impact is, over the past few years, they've worked really hard to get that stank, that TNA stank off of them.
Right.
And at one point too, I mean, TNA had a great product for several years, and then it was again misdirection and poor leadership and
right.
So I think that they've done a really good job at building up their. They have a lot of talented people on that roster that.
You do.
And again, because access isn't as accessible, see what I did there? To most people, that, it's kind of tough for people to actually see what's going on. I don't know how much of an internet presence they have as far as, putting things on YouTube. I know that's constantly stuff on the Instagram from Impact.
And Twitch.
But I think that,
Twitch is the other one, yep.
I do think that if my prediction as far as all these companies grouping up together, that they're going to be flying high, just maybe not as high as AEW. I think ultimately AEW is going to come out on top as far as, if they work together, the who's going to make out the best. But I do think that, there's money to be made for all these other promotions, and I think that Impact is finally going to get the eyes on them and the credit that they've deserved for the past 2 years, I want to say.
Well, let's hope it comes to pass because, it's good for the business as a whole.
Sure.
I think that with Anthem buying Access, and now they have a network that they own, that's owned by their parent company, so they're not going to be bounced around from cable network to cable network. That's a big plus. Even though Access doesn't have the reach that some of the other networks have, it's still a steady place. It's still a foundation that they can build from, and they're trying to fill in with Twitch and some of these other things. So I see good things for them in 2021. They've got a good roster. They've got a lot of good talent. This whole Don Callis, Kenny Omega thing is going to help propel them forward. Very good to see.
The business needed this.
Yeah.
Now, where do you guys think, let's say that, the vaccine comes, everyone gets it, everyone's doing well, the pandemic is over, you can start doing live events again with crowds. Do you think, WWE is pretty much not going to be doing house shows anymore. They'll probably just be traveling around for, the obvious shows. What about Impact? Do you think they're going to stay in the same building? Do you think they're going to tour around to different venues? I'm sure AEW is going to be traveling around the country. WWE is. Do you think Impact is going to just be a localized show, television show? Or do you think they'll try to travel around too and hit every place in the country and possibly overseas?
I don't know what their economics are. It's certainly possible. I think they ought to do some live stuff somewhere. They can't be doing these empty arena things forever. Once the pandemic is over and we can have crowds again, you're going to see all these people doing something. Whether they do it in a fixed location, whether they do it in touring locations, wrestling needs an audience.
Right, but if you look at, when TNA was at Universal and it was part of the tours, they had the live audiences, but it wasn't people who were specifically going there to watch wrestling.
That's
These were people
right.
who were on tour. So if they stay they're in Kentucky, I believe. Is that where they're filming?
Tennessee,
Yeah.
Thank you. That's close.
It's south of Boston.
Yeah, there you go. If they stay,
Almost everything is south of Boston.
That's a good point. But you'll get that same crowd. Sometimes that's fun too when you see the same people in the crowd every single week. It's almost like they become characters, like Hatman on ECW.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
Yeah.
But you miss out on that I want to be there to see stuff because how many people are going to travel to Tennessee?
Well, that they need to start somewhere. You got to crawl before you can walk. Think back to ECW. They ran the ECW arena every few weeks, and part of the big attraction of ECW as a touring entity was that Philly crowd. You got to see the hat guy, and you get to see all these people going crazy, and that as the late Tony Rumble used to say, it looked like something you weren't supposed to see. And that made you want to see it all the more. So by the time they got out on the road, people were looking for it. But you've got to start somewhere. And once you can get that atmosphere, and once you can build that anticipation for those live events, that's the time that you do it.
Yeah, unfortunately, I don't think this pandemic's going to be over until maybe, not in our area anyway, maybe till about the fall. Is what I'm looking at. By the time this thing starts to get rolling with the vaccine and everything else, I think we're looking fall before things start clearing up here. Down south Florida and stuff, they're opening up a lot more. Obviously, we're about to be shut back down again. Is what it's looking like. Another 2 weeks here. So before we can start getting the crowds in and all that, like you said, they've got a home base right now. You gotta build that home base. You build that up, and then the easiest thing to do from that point is to see where. They're all on television, so see where your demographics are coming from. Where is your biggest viewership? That's where you want to go to next, because you're gonna take it on. But now you got AEW, and if AEW is linked into with Impact, well, there's nothing wrong with AEW taking a few of the guys from Impact, bringing them with them on the next tour, showcasing a couple of the guys from Impact, making a big deal to boost their rate. Again, I think AEW's shoulders are big, and I think they're going to carry the load on a lot of this, and they're the ones that are going to be towing the line. And I think they're going to tow a lot of people with them when they do it. If they're smart, that's how it'll all work. And it's like it's just a big enough piece of the pie for everyone.
I'm predicting that before the end of the year, we start to see the NWA doing original stuff again.
I hope so.
Yeah, I hope so too. I really was a fan of the Georgia tapings, the NWA Power. I thought that was terrific stuff. Everything old is new again. Yep. You know, Billy Corgan, while he may not have Dave Lagana, he does have access to Dave Marquez and that whole crew. And they were doing some interesting things with the show on the Fight Network, Primetime Live. Yep. They were using some of that content to do the YouTube show NWA Shockwave, which is out there right now. So, you know, they're making some moves. You know, they've lost a lot of people, and people think that NWA is kind of going downhill now because of the pandemic. I think Billy Corgan's a very smart man. I think he knows that he doesn't have to compete for talent if he doesn't want to. There's no point in competing in a pandemic where you're just throwing money out and you're unable to get it back. But he's a smart man. He's a real innovator. Was an innovator in music. He's going to be equally as great an innovator in pro wrestling. And I think that when they do get their mojo back, you're going to see them pick up right where they left off. And I'm looking forward to that.
I think everything revolves around Nick Aldis, what he decides to do. If he stays, I think he's the best thing that they have going. I think that he is the perfect person to have that championship, to be the representative of the company, to carry that company. And I just think that if for some reason he decides that he wants to go elsewhere, that I don't think they have anybody else that will be able to take that spot with as much dignity and respect that it brings, and carry themselves the same way. I hope I'm wrong.
I like Eli Drake.
Eli would be good.
Eli Drake would be a great NWA champion. I don't think that... I think Nick is great, and I think he's the perfect guy for the title, but he's not the only guy. He certainly is not the only guy, but...
I think without the hokiness, you could get Aaron Stevens to do it.
Yeah.
Aaron Stevens can do the same...
He's been doing some of the booking.
Some of the I'm better than everybody type of...
Right.
I could see him pulling that off. You know, he's fantastic like that. So, again, somebody else I've seen since day one.
Wait a second, though. So you mean to tell me that there is a worker who's a booker that didn't put the belt on him?
He took that national championship off of himself.
You can do that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, that didn't get him in trouble?
Yeah. Been known to happen. Let's go to our bonus match this week. We're going to, speaking of the NWA, we're going to take a look at an NWA World Heavyweight Championship match from June 6th of 2012. Adam Pearce, Scrap Iron Adam Pearce, versus Colt Boom Boom Cabana for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, part of the 7 Levels of Hate series. Let's take a look at that right now, and we'll talk about it in depth on the other side. Sheldon Goldberg here as we take you back to Bridgewater, Massachusetts. June 8th, 2012 was the date. As we get set to bring you the second match in the Best of 7 series for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. And there you see the former champion, the former 4-time champion, Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. This bout set to be a Boston street fight. Adam Pearce ordering around referee Barbara Mahoney. Telling her to open the ropes. Oh my goodness! Pearce pushes the referee. referee Barbara Mahoney not taking any of that, sticking her finger right in the face of the former 4-time world champion. Adam Pearce definitely not the fan favorite on this occasion. Pearce admonishing the referee one more time. Language on Adam Pearce. We apologize if any of you may be offended by the verbiage of the former champion. In spite of the attitude, Pearce, one of the great NWA World's Heavyweight Champions in this era of the National Wrestling Alliance. As we said, this match, stage 2 in the 7 levels of hate, the second match in a best-of-7 series for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. Adam Pearce has already lost the first match, a first blood match, taking place in Glendale, California, and there's the champion. The NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, the 2-time champion, Colt Boom Boom Cabana, getting a warm reception from New England Championship Wrestling and the fans in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. Cabana, an international star traveling all over the world, and look at the eyes of Adam Pearce. Talking about a picture being worth 1,000 words. Staring down, one of the ringside fans here getting a little heated. A packed house in Bridgewater, Massachusetts for this NWA World's Heavyweight Championship match.
Stick up for the
Bridgewater fans telling Adam Pearce exactly what they think of him, and Colt Cabana getting the opposite reaction from the ringsiders in Bridgewater. First time the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship would be defended in the Boston area in a number of years. Ring announcer Chris Norman getting set for the official introductions to this World Championship match. Oh, wait a minute. Pearce pushing Chris Norman. Norman not used to getting manhandled in that regard.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is our main event of the evening. It is scheduled for 1 hour with a 60-minute time limit, and it is for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. This is stage 2 of the 7 Introducing the challenger from San Diego, California, weighing in at 241 3/4 pounds. He is the four-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Scrap Iron
Combatants join before the introductions are finished.
and his opponent from Maxwell Street in Chicago, Illinois, weighing 271 pounds, the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, Colt.
NWA World's Heavyweight Champion Colt Cabana. Oh, Adam Pearce attacking from behind, and this matchup is underway. As Chris Norman announced, this match is a Boston street fight. Anything goes, no holds barred. No countouts, no disqualifications. Clothesline misses. Cabana over the top, rolls Pearce into the corner, and Cabana now on the attack. Cabana winds up, lays it in to Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. Cabana grabbing Pearce by the ears, pulling him back. Big forearm sends Pearce back into the ring the hard way. And Cabana just grabbing that ear, that hurts. Big right hand right to the jaw. See these fans here as Cabana winds up and lays it in. Each match in this best of 7 series will have a different stipulation. Pearce sent to the outside. The referee in this match is basically there just to count a fall or check for a submission. Cabana looking to send Pearce into the ring post, but Pearce blocks it. Oh, low blow by Pearce. And Cabana comes back. This time, Pearce sent head first into that ring post. Fans right on top of the action here in Bridgewater. Fans clearing out of the way, and Pearce getting nailed by Cabana. Big shots right to the jaw. Cabana firing away, winding up with the heavy artillery and laying it in. Barbara Mahoney, the official of record. Referee Rob Tuttle on the outside just to maintain order. This being a Boston street fight, this thing could go anywhere. Dueling chants for Cabana and Pearce as they battle on the outside. Cabana goes for the cover and only gets one. While Chris Norman did not mention it, falls do indeed count anywhere in this Boston street fight. Oh my goodness. Big chop right to the chest of Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. And some of the ringside fans get into the act courtesy of Colt Boom Boom Cabana. Front row giving Pearce a little boom boom of their own. sent back into the ring. Pearce now dives through the ropes onto Cabana. Pearce with a running dive, sending Colt Cabana right into a steel chair, and you can see the expression of pain on the face of the world's heavyweight champion. Pearce looks like a can of some sort in his hand. Oh man, right across the head of the world champion. Pearce now raking the eyes. All of this perfectly legal in a Boston street fight. Pearce trying to clear the crowd out of the way, telling people to move as he sends Cabana for the ride. Oh, wait a minute. Right into a robe chair. You can see the fans are all on their feet. People holding children on their shoulders so they can see. Our camera crew trying to get pictures of this World's Heavyweight Championship match. Officials trying to watch out for the people in the crowd. Pearce laying one in of his own. Big chop by Pearce. And now it's Adam Pearce firing away on the World Heavyweight Champion, biting the forehead of Colt Cabana. Pearce screaming, "What about him now?" The action moves back into the ring. Pearce cursing the ringside fans. And now Cabana with a big haymaker of his own. And a poke right to the eyes. Cabana sent to the outside. Folks, over the last several months, you have heard the story of the feud between these two men. Pearce has put his career on the line in this best-of-7 series. Pearce with Cabana in the corner. Pearce picks him up, drops him on top of a table, and now Pearce measuring him. Elbow right to the heart, and down goes Cabana, crashing through that table. Pearce goes for the cover, only gets 2. Trying to stay on top of the action, not exactly an easy task with this match spilling all over the building. Pearce with Cabana, sending him back into the ring. And Cabana now with a forearm. Pearce retaliates. Big clothesline by Pearce and a cover. 2 count only. Another one. And last ride clothesline. Only gets 2. The NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. The most legendary prize, the most iconic prize in professional wrestling. That 10 pounds of gold is on the line right here, right now. And speaking of which, Pearce has the belt in hand, goes after Cabana, but gets cut off. Pearce misses, Cabana waffles. Adam Pearce with that 10 pounds of leather and gold. Cabana staring. at the World's Heavyweight Championship. Other matches in this series scheduled for Minnesota. I believe Kansas City. But the championship is indeed on the line tonight if Pearce should be victorious. He would be the World's Heavyweight Champion, but right now Adam Pearce is busted open. Pearce bleeding from the forehead. His face the proverbial crimson mask, as the late Gordon Soley would say. Shades of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes is a bionic elbow. Doesn't get the job done. And another. Look at the toughness of Adam Pearce, staring Colt Cabana down. And the third elbow does the trick. Pearce crashes to the canvas. The first match of this series was a first blood match. Cabana now sending Pearce to the opposite side. Cabana crashing in. And Pearce down to the canvas. Cabana with the cover and a 2 count only. Cabana now going upstairs. Moonsault nails it. Here's the cover. This could do it. And only 2. Picture perfect moonsault by Colt Cabana, who is no lightweight. Cabana grabs a steel chair. Once again, all of this is perfectly legal. Anything goes in a Boston street fight. Pearce, DDT, right on the steel chair. Pearce cutting off Cabana and delivering the DDT. The rivalry between these two men is legendary. This best of 7 series, an epic nationwide event, and NECW is proud to be bringing it to you. Cabana with a shot to the midsection. Pearce cuts him off with a boot. Pearce head first into the steel chair. Cabana now rolls him over. This could be the Billy Goat's curse. Yes, it is. The reverse Boston Crab. Pearce down. In the center of the ring, Pearce cannot get to the ropes. Referee Barbara Mahoney checking. Pearce, and that's it. He's out. Colt Cabana retains the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship.
Ladies and gentlemen, your winner of the match by submission, and still the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, Colt Cabana.
Mark it 2-0 for the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, Colt Cabana. Scrap Iron Pearce passed out from the pain of the Billy Goat's curse. Cabana holding the belt in the face of Adam Pearce. Let me tell you, that belt means everything to Scrap Iron Adam Pearce. As it does to Colt Cabana.
The bloody face of Adam Pearce. As Colt Cabana once again victorious in stage 2 of the best of 7. The 7 levels of hate. Pearce may be bloody and defeated, but this series is far from over. We will continue to bring you coverage of the 7 levels of hate. And once again, your winner, the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, Colt Cabana, will have post-match comments when we come back after this.
All right. This was the period that NECW was an associate member of the NWA. I had a long relationship with the NWA going back quite a number of years to when Tony Rumble was alive and we were part of the NWA as NWA New England. Howard Brody, who at one point was NWA president, and I are very close friends. Bob Trowbridge and I were very friendly, and it was Bob Trowbridge that actually reached out to me to bring us back into the NWA as we were looking for a deal on insurance. And Bob reached out to me and said, listen, if you guys become associate members, we will pay for your insurance. We will pick that up for you, as they provided insurance to all their NWA members at the time. So that was good enough for me, and we agreed to support the NWA and the NWA champion and so forth, and that's how we got involved in this 7 levels of hate. This was a situation that was put together by Adam Pearce and Colt Cabana to do this best of 7 series across the country in different locations and then package it up for a DVD. So this was a rather unique event where the talent involved, along with the NWA, worked together to create kind of a package attraction that went from place to place. So we were fortunate enough to become involved in this, and we hosted 2 of those matches, this being the first one. So with that, Kevin, what were your thoughts about this?
It was fun. Just watching it was fun. It really made me miss crowds.
Thank you.
Yep.
Stealing my notes.
Again.
Always.
And at one point you even said the fans are right on top of the action. It's great too because Colt Cabana is one of the most charismatic performers in the business. Just the energy that he has the second he walks through the curtain, he connects with the crowd gets right behind him. Adam Pearce, on the other hand, has such a great mind for the business, understands the psychology, understands the role of a heel, how to make the babyface look stronger, how to get the crowd to dislike you. Even something as simple as when Chris Norman went to start the announcements, that little shove that he gave him was just enough to be like, I loved fighting through the crowd, just all the interactions they had with the crowd, how Adam Pearce was working his way to try to get back in the ring, finally gets back in the ring, and then just throws Colt right back out. I thought that was great because it's like, here's this build-up, he doesn't want to fight in the crowd, he wants it in the ring, and then he just throws him right out. And then one of the other highlights, besides the guy in the Kamala t-shirt, was at one point they're fighting through the crowd, they're working their way towards the back of the building, and there is, I don't know if he's drunk, but in my mind this guy's drunk, allegedly, has his back turned to everybody as he's in a conversation with somebody else. I don't know if it was Colt or Adam Pearce grabs a chair, and that's when the guy turns around and all of a sudden like, hey! He was so into the match at that point. And that popped me. I was fully But I thought it was great. The blood was a bit of a surprise. I wasn't expecting. It made sense in the match. It made sense to tell the story. It made sense for the drama. But ultimately, I thought that it was. I think the fans definitely got their money's worth.
Joe,
right off the bat, when Pearce came in, the big heat he had with Barb, the referee, to push her right off I went, oh, I want to see this guy get his teeth knocked out. That was great. And Barb standing right up to him, I went, whoa, this is right away.
You know, I always wanted her to do the old Tommy Young spot that he used to do with Ric Flair.
Exactly what
she would never do it.
Push him back down.
Just push him and knock him on his ass and let him.
It would have been great.
Yeah,
the place would have popped.
Yeah,
huge. They should have done that one more time in the match,
right?
And have her knock him on his ass and have him fade back. Like, whoa, that place would have gone banana.
Yeah,
it was. It would have done something. So after that, have 5 minutes into the match. 5 minutes in, we haven't even gotten the intros yet, and that crowd is on their feet, hot as hell. I'm like, this is class. This is the same thing. I can't. Man, do I miss the crowds? They were so into Cabana. There were moms and dads that were yelling higher and louder than their kids sitting in front of them. And they were smiles on the faces. They were into it. It was fantastic. Hard hitting action, real good hard hits. What I found hilarious is on the hard side of the camera, the hard cam, the spot right in front when they were going through the chairs, and Cabana went over and did the wave over all the rows of chairs. By the time they came back around, the crowd had those chairs set back up for themselves again on that side so fast. I went, that was amazing. I'm like, get the chairs back quick. Get in here. Yeah. We can't miss this. The finish with the Billy Goat's curse was hilarious. I loved it. Timed it just right. The use of the 10 pounds of gold to bust open Pearce was dynamite. It was just. I thought it was fantastic. The whole match was great. What an awesome second match to this.
The thing that tells you everything you need to know about this match is the look on the faces of the people in the crowd.
Yeah,
they got shit-eating grins on their faces. They look like Christmas just came early. They just looked like they were having the time of their lives. They were
eating it up.
They were eating it up with a spoon. I mean, and you know, it takes real talented people to be able to do that. You don't see that in independent wrestling very much anymore. I mean, we're fortunate in NECW. We'd have guys, and I could go through them, but I won't at the moment. But we've had guys over the years that were able to do that, to get people to react that way. But man, this was so great to see. And let me tell you, when Adam Pearce and Cabana came down, Adam Pearce actually had a PR guy that went after newspaper press locally for us without us having to do that. Although I was sending out press releases anyway. I mean, he had his own PR guy that was working on this. It was so well thought out and so well put together that basically they sold us a package. And we were fortunate enough to be part of that package. It was so great, and I was so thrilled to have been a part of it. A real highlight for me. I mean, the rest of NECW at that time was kind of meh. You know, the booking was not there. There wasn't a lot of continuity. It was kind of a tough time. But having that was just a great catalyst. And once we got past that spot and I started to do the booking myself with you, Kevin, I think that's when things started to turn around. And, you know,
this was shortly before I came on board.
Yes, that's right.
And right after I had left.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like right after I had left.
And one of the other things with Adam Pearce too is he was teaching people things left and right, you know, back there. And because even when I came on board, I remember when I first started doing the interviews, Brian Nadeau gave me the Adam Pearce technique to make everyone look taller.
Yep.
And I've done that ever since. Whenever I do it, I say, I got to do the Pearce. Things like that. Like when people can bring more to the table than just go out there and do their match. That's when you know someone loves the business.
Yeah, Adam Pearce, just a treasure. I mean, here's a guy who really took something in the NWA title that, you know, let's face it, had not had the exposure or the luster that it had in previous years, and he really did a tremendous job with it. If Adam were wrestling now, and he were NWA champion, he'd be just as good as Nick Aldis in that role.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this was a real pleasure to be involved with, and We were.
I think it's crazy that there's people that won't even. They see Adam Pearce weekly now that have no idea what he's capable of doing.
Right.
Yep.
I had followed his career quite a bit prior to him becoming NWA champion. In fact, Bob Trowbridge had talked to me once. They were taking the NWA title back from TNA, and we did that tournament that we were involved in, which we had seen previously. The Claudio Castagnoli Pepper Parks match that we saw last time. He had asked me what I thought about who they should put the title on, and he went over the candidates and so forth. And I says, you got to put it on your guy. You got to put it on the guy that's going to be committed to you and what you're doing. And I was the one that suggested Adam Pearce, which is the direction that they eventually went in. It's funny, he did not know that before he came out for us the first time. And I said, ask Bob Trowbridge. And Bob Trowbridge told him. He says, yeah. I said, he goes, man, he says, I really have you to thank then for that. So, interesting stuff. But Adam Pearce had also done a lot of stuff with Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, which of course was the cornerstone of the NWA and his run with the NWA Championship. So he had really developed quite a bit as a talent by working with Dave. He just was a great choice as NWA champion, and he's missed in terms of his in-ring work. And you're right, I think people, when they see him now, don't have no idea what a great wrestler he was. We'll have another great bonus match next week. I think next week we're going to see Tanya Lee taking on Ryan Matthews. That was
we'll do an entire show just on Ryan Matthews.
Yes. Definitely not an NWA World Heavyweight Championship caliber match, but a fun match in and of itself, and a look at the greatness that was Tanya Lee and the greatness that was Ryan Matthews in his own ways. So we'll be taking a look at that next week. Don't forget, we want you to send us questions. Send them to ReGenerationNECW@gmail.com. We want to get your questions in, and anything that you want to know about anything, NECW or otherwise, we'll be happy to get your questions on and answer them to the best of our ability. And
Sheldon, I have a question.
Sure.
Now, when we were grilling and chilling with you a couple weeks ago, asking you any questions that were out there, there was one question that I forgot to ask that I've always wondered. At one point, you were the president of the Cauliflower Alley Club?
No, I was on the board of directors.
You were on the board of directors.
Right.
How did that come about? How did you become a member? How did you get involved with it? Who brought you to it? And where are you now with them?
I'm no longer on the board. Have not been on the board for years. I met a man by the name of Carl Lauer. He was executive director at one point. This was back in the late 90s. And struck up a friendship with Carl as I was publishing my newsletter, Matt Marketplace, and was covering the Cauliflower Alley Club events. And they wanted younger people on the board. A lot of the guys that were going to the reunions were old men. Kowalski, Gene Kaniski, guys of that ilk, Count Billy Varga, guys that have long since passed away. And they wanted young blood. They wanted people in there who could help promote the club and get younger folks to be in there and be a part of it. And I was asked to be on the board of directors, which was very flattering. So I joined the board of directors. I got a chance to become very close with Lou Thez, which was a great thrill for me. I sat and broke bread with many great legends. And that was how I got involved with the Cauliflower Alley Club. When I started promoting, and my parents started to, get to the point where they were more dependent on my sister and myself. That's when I stopped traveling so much, because I had stuff I had to do here and so forth, and I kind of drifted away from the club for quite a number of years, and looking forward to getting back to it, actually, now that my parents are gone, and looking forward to, hopefully, the reunion's going to come off this spring. I'm looking forward to getting back out there and enjoying those reunions. But I met many, many people because of the Cauliflower Alley Club. I highly recommend it. Great cause, and that's the story. It was an honor to be involved on the board of directors. A real honor. I remember sitting in a board meeting in Springfield, Massachusetts. Tom Burke and I had helped set up a reunion in Springfield, Massachusetts at the Marriott in Springfield, and we had a board meeting. And at the time, one of the big things was a lot of the old-timers really hated the WWF. They wanted nothing to do with it. They didn't want any part of it. They thought Vince was the devil and so forth. And I said, well, you can't think that way because they're an important part of the business, and we can't do that. So after discussing it with fellow board members, I decided that I was going to reach out to the WWF at the time and try to get them to send people to come to the reunions. And I said, well, who better to come to the reunion than Gorilla Monsoon and Arnie Skoland? It's not like we were asking for Hulk Hogan or The Undertaker or whatever. I sent a letter by Federal Express to Vince's office, and sure enough, Monsoon agreed to come, and Arnie Skoland agreed to come. I remember I was the one that presented the Cauliflower Alley Club award to Gorilla Monsoon. Big thrill.
Wow.
Yeah. Pedro Morales came to that reunion.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, just to rub shoulders with these legends, people that I grew up watching and grew up idolizing. It was quite a thrill. A lot of good memories of the Cauliflower Alley Club. My favorite memory of that Springfield event was the board meeting I was starting to tell you about, where I'm sitting between Gorilla Monsoon and Gordon Soley.
Oh,
and I'm like, somebody pinch me.
Right.
Guess who's coming to dinner,
Yes.
Here I am, sitting next to these guys. What did I do to deserve this? But the funnier story was we were in the bar of the hotel, and I had just been introduced to Gordon Soley. And Gordon's sitting there, we're talking, and Gordon Soley is swearing like a sailor. He would make a sailor blush. So, if you can imagine, Gordon Soley, that motherfucker was I'm trying to hold it together. This guy is swearing enough to make a sailor blush, and I can't believe it. But that was my first interaction with Gordon Soley, a dear man. Great times. I highly recommend. We're going to get you guys out to one of those at some point.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, apparently we struck a little nerve with our friend Jamie Jammed Up Yurkowski from our last episode, as we were talking about his company, Chaotic Wrestling. Apparently, we tickled old Jamie a little bit. And I don't mean in the French way either. He made some kind of a snide comment on Twitter about being on his island and retired now, and thanking us for mentioning him, which...
Rhode Island.
Yeah. Well, no, apparently he lives part of the year in Hawaii. There's a joke in there that I won't go to, but anyway. Anyway, so, Jimmy, we're glad that you were tickled by our discussion of you last week. We really didn't get into everything, because there's much more that we could get into, but we don't want you to get your crotchless panties in a twist again, so... So we'll leave that for another day, but thank you very much for the acknowledgement. We really appreciate that. Don't need any rotten pineapples, so... Oh, man. All right, well, let's wrap this episode up. Thank you all for listening. Once again, don't forget to send your questions to ReGenerationNECW@gmail.com. For Kevin Castro and Joe Matarazzo, I'm Sheldon Goldberg. Thanks again for listening, everyone. Have a great week.
The ReGeneration podcast is a production of New England Championship Wrestling. To send us questions, comments, or feedback, email us at regenerationnecw@gmail.com.